Hey guys, all right, last bit of agriculture. We're going to go through it real quickly as we look at the globalized system of agriculture and how agriculture has become much more of a globalized uh, connection than just a localized operation where you only see agricultural systems in local areas. Now we can see it in a global sense and a global scale. And a lot of that goes back to the period of colonial history where you have in the Atlantic where you have the introduction of triangular trade. And what it does is a process that we study this mostly for the development of the slave trade, of Africans being brought to the Americas as slaves. But in this context, we're looking at the development of agricultural systems on a global scale when you have the transfer of different agricultural goods between three continents, and all of a sudden, not only do they go to different places to be grown, they also go to different places to be bought and consumed. So we have this period of time called the Columbian Exchange, in which many different goods go from old world to new. Primarily in North America, you have the development of the potato and the tomato coming over to Europe to help diet and increase nutrition. But you also have several other things come from Europe to North America. We can talk about disease and all that as well, but again, we're looking at agricultural products the most, and you can kind of see like what things not only here but also with livestock that are brought over to the New World and that are going to be used as cash crops on plantations to further link together, perhaps more so ever than history, the link together agriculture as not just growing to eat, but also growing to eat and then sell. And we know that once, for instance, where is it? Is it here? I don't see it. Once we have the introduction of cotton into the New World, I can't believe cotton's not on this list. I guess you can't eat cotton, so never mind. But once cotton is grown in the New World and developers see the profit motive and ability to be able to grow a lot of that. The same thing with tobacco, which is also not on here. What is up with this map? Oh, there's tobacco right here. So anyway, like the idea is that like once you grow it in a place that you can grow it on a mass scale, now it can be an economic enterprise, and that leads to the development in part of slavery. So again, this process called the colonial exchange. So let me move myself up here. So with the colonial exchange, it starts to lead us toward a period of food globalization, in which agribusiness, in which the idea that you can now grow food for mass profit, and also transnational corporations, where we have a business that's located in several parts across the globe, has led to this globalization of food. So we see the growth of luxury crops. And what we mean by luxury crops is this is something that is not necessary for human consumption, but it's something that is grown, or let's say necessary for human subsistence or just being able to survive. But it's something that's grown that can be sold for profit that is a luxury, right? We don't need it, but it's nice to have. Good example of that is coffee. Now, when these are grown in LDCs, what happens is, well, okay, now we can like make a business of this. If we grow coffee, if we grow, let's say, chocolate or cocoa, let's get that from an LDC, produce it there, and then the profits go to the MDC. This is very Wallenstein, right, with the world systems theory from development. Now, what does that do to LDCs, though? Well, you grow the dependency on MDCs. That MDC corporations are saying, okay, we're going to come down there and like start this plantation and give jobs to everybody. Well, all of a sudden, the LDC is dependent on the MDC for those jobs. The crops themselves are too expensive for farmers to eat. Farmers are growing these crops in such a way, in such an economic setup, that they can't even consume them themselves because the producer can get more money by taking them all the way across the world and selling them than letting the farmers buy them themselves for what the money that they have. So the crops that the farmers grow, they can't even eat because they're too expensive, and there's more value for the corporation to sell it abroad. So the food to consume then is in a low supply, that most of the time is being spent by farmers growing these crops that they can't even grow a lot of other crops for themselves to eat. So again, there's this balance of like, I have a job, but then like, where is the like food that we really can't consume? Who's putting time in to grow that? So this is the issue in the LDC. And they're also using non-sustainable farming practices. And we talked all about that with the movie, is that now these farmers are using and doing things, practices that are not sustainable, whether that be using pesticides or fertilizers in the soil or no crop rotation to restore nutrients, whatever that is, improving soil health. All these things are happening that are not sustainable. And eventually that industry is going to struggle because of that. So what we have is the spread of what we call fair trade movements. And fair trade is organizations that seek to take these products, let's say cocoa, which turns to chocolate. They make sure that that cocoa was produced, harvested, grown in an environment that was positive and beneficial for those producers, for the populations in LDCs that are producing it to be sold then to an MDC, that they were not grown in a distressing environment. So I'm going to link a video that I want you to check out. Let me just start it here for a second. Okay, so it's about 12 minutes long, but it's an awesome video that shows you how fair trade is attempting to revolutionize the cocoa growing industry and trying to make sure that the conditions in which producers are producing the cocoa to turn into Hershey bars or M&Ms or whatever we eat for chocolate that I am addicted to, they are making sure that these conditions that LDCs are operating under are beneficial. Now there's consequences to that. It could be where this chocolate costs more because they're making sure that those producers are being paid a fair wage. But this video will give you insight on that. It's a good thing to check out to close out our agricultural section. Make sure you're working on those quizzes on AP Classroom as we now transition fully to AP Test Review.